in our first P in our pie, which is prepared speeches. Our first speech today will be given by Anthony Ally, our club's former president and an executive coach. He works exclusively with executives who genuinely want to inspire employees to develop more valuable connection with clients and coworkers. By the way, Anthony just released a hot book from the press titled New Rules for Hybrid Leaders. Kindly check it out on Amazon. Anthony's speech today is titled, Thankfully Revealing the Secrets That Have Built Our 31-Year Honeymoon. Anthony and Susan have been blessed with a 31-year honeymoon. Tonight, he will share some of the strategic elements and secrets they've uncovered that help them experience an infinite love that will last forever. Please give it up for Anthony Ally.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. I am filled with gramercy, be able to share our honeymoon experience and some of the secrets that have helped us to experience our love for one another. The purpose of that would be that you will also learn some of the secrets in case you would like to join in this experience. But I do want to say on the outset, there are many different paths to get the blessing of an incredible marriage. I'm going to share with you the path that has worked great for us. You may have another dimension or another direction to it. Ours will be one that I will share openly, mixed with our central theme and our faith that has influenced our marriage. Before I get there, I want to share with you that reality for me was that as a child, I used to experience incredible fear and anger in our home. I didn't have the best experience in seeing my dad and mom and the way they connected and related to one another. This didn't set a great foundation for a good marriage. On top of that, my view of God, which was central to my being, was this angry person that was out in the universe somewhere. And he was just waiting for a chance like Zeus to come down and throw a lightning bolt when I did something wrong. And this influenced the way I used to live and the way that I would enter marriage if something didn't change. Thankfully, when I was a teenager, I was introduced to a couple of wonderful books, one by a gentleman named Zig Ziglar, See You at the Top, and the other one by Norman Vincent Peale, The Power of Positive Thinking. Together, these two have probably sold over 7 million copies. If you haven't picked one up, this would be a good time to reserve it for your Amazon list and say, I'm going to join and pick these out and check them out. For me, the reason this was transforming as a teenager, because one of my big takeaways was that God loves me. And this was very different than my early upbringing. The fact that actually God was filled with love and that he loves me. Not only that, both of these authors said he wants to be your best friend. He wants to walk with you. When you're driving, he wants to be in the car with you. When you're working, he wants to be there working with you. Whatever you're doing, he wants to be next to you to be your best friend. And this was transformational for me. And these two authors said that they got their secrets from a book that I thought was filled with darkness and things that I never want to touch in my life. But I decided to explore this book. And in this book, I discovered certain secrets that later on Zig Ziglar also shared in his book, Courtship After Marriage. He was honeymooning with his bride for over 50 years, and he got to share some of those secrets with us on what he did. And as a single person, this was instrumental for me to learn, especially since I was counseling married couples. I wanted to have some principles, not just based on my own thought, but what other married couples were applying in their lives. With that, our journey began, and Susan and I entered into an incredible experience that I'm extremely grateful for. But in that time that I was going to apply everything that I had learned was when I started thinking, what is the purpose? What is the purpose of marriage? I want you to think about that. If you can, in the chat box, type, what do you think is the purpose of marriage? Right now, if you can, in the chat box, type, what do you think is the purpose of marriage? Let me see if I see, what do I see in the chat box? I see harmony and love, teamwork and love, to be sanctified, love. I love it. Procreation, companionship, happiness, accompany each other till the end, communication. I love it. Some very, very good answers. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more that you'll be sharing and thinking through. And a lot of those probably very similar to what I thought. But I want to challenge that just a little bit, because what I discovered was the purpose of marriage must not give that locus of control to another imperfect person or to my circumstance. And if I thought through that, what a counselor was teaching me, that meant, he said, the purpose of marriage is not sexual fulfillment. And I thought, what? You mean as a single guy, isn't that what we're looking for? We get married and we're going to have great sexual fulfillment. And in my upbringing, in my religious upbringing, that was taught as an incredible purpose of marriage. And he said, no. He said, in fact, I want you to think about this, Anthony. If the day of your wedding, you're on your way to your honeymoon, you have a car accident, and your wife cannot have any sexual intimacy with you at all, would you still marry her? If your answer is no, you're not ready. Whew, that was a wake-up call to me, and I thought, what an incredible thought. Very different than what we hear in a lot of popular psychology, I know that. But he also said, the purpose of marriage is not financial stability. In our experience, when I wanted to propose to Susan, I had hurt my knee for some unknown reason, and I couldn't even go to a job. I was lying down disabled with very little money. And I said, okay, God, I think I'm called to marry my wife, but here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to build a great financial background, and I'm going to have lots of savings account, and then I'm going to go ask her. But I sense in my heart that God said, if you do that, you will miss the purpose of marriage. And you will think that the purpose of marriage is just for money. And I'm so thankful that I didn't wait, because later on, when we went through financial challenges, ups and downs, I realized that it was so helpful to have a strong foundation, not based on just financial stability for our marriage. But the purpose of marriage is also not just relational satisfaction. If that's the case, when my wife was not satisfying that relational feeling I had, what would I do? Throw her aside like yesterday's meal. If my purpose was just to have a relational connection, a great relational satisfaction, I would miss the real purpose of marriage. What is the purpose of marriage? I discovered this in a secret ancient Greek document. Don't worry, I'm going to translate it for you. You don't have to know ancient Greek to read it. But with that, I discovered that the purpose of marriage is to encourage one another to sainthood. The purpose of marriage was to encourage each other to sainthood. That secret passage said, husbands, love your wives just as Christ loves the church and gave himself for her. Now again, if you are any other religious background, I just want you to take that as my experience. You can apply it the way that you find it helpful to you. But for me, this was crucial. Because if I thought about this and I said, husbands, love your wife, what is the reality of love? What does this mean? What does it mean to be a saint? Every person, every one of you in this conference call right now, every one of you in this video meeting, you are created in God's image and called to be like Jesus, a saint, full of love, grace, and truth. Every human being on the planet, no matter what their background. And with that reality, I said, love more than just a fleeting feeling. And when I give love, I was taught to not demand anything in return. Full of grace, demanding nothing in return. This is agape love, the highest form of love. And with what we're about to celebrate in the Western culture and in the Eastern culture, Christmas. And what is Christmas? Christmas is, in our culture, based on the theology that God, that was not just out in Never Never Land, but he was humbling himself to come in the form of a child, in the womb of a child, to reveal to us himself. In fact, in that ancient scripture, it also says he formed himself in the form of a child, and he allowed himself to even suffer unto crucifixion. And why is this so important to marriage? Because that meant that if I began to look at God as not just someone who's there to wipe out humanity at the minute we mess up, but he loves us and he wants to give us a chance to respond to his love. And that everlasting love will stand the test of time in our marriage, to not just be for the blessing here, but for eternal blessings. This presented to me, what does this mean? Husbands, love your wives. Anthony, love Susan like Christ loves the church. That means as a man, I'm not supposed to hold on to my manhood and say, bow down to me, woman, and serve me, which was part of the culture I was raised in. Rather, I'm to put her interest higher than my own. I'm to give myself to her fully and completely. And the icon of a godly husband is one who exalts his wife's highest potential, her Christ potential. Lay down my life for her and putting her needs above my own to do everything I can to bring out her highest potential as a saint. And when I start delving deeper into this book that Zig Ziglar and Norman Vincent Peale had introduced me to, I also found that God humbled himself to the point that he would bow down and he would become like a slave, a servant. He would wash the feet of his followers, including the person that he knew was going to betray him, Judas Iscariot. And he said, I'm going to wash your feet and I'm going to love you, because meekness is not weakness. Meekness is God's power, this incredible power guided by his love, sacrificially giving of himself to us. With that in mind, this means when I am to love my wife, I am to bow down and wash her feet. I'm to look for ways to serve her, to bless her. I don't see her according to her limitations, but I see her as she can be. My love for her is not dependent on, well, is she treating me right today? Is she responding great to my love? Is she cooking the right meal for me? None of that. No matter how she's treating me, I'm called to die to my own desire, my own demands, and to become more like Christ, loving her without demanding anything in return. And you might think, this is a horrible way to live for a man. It wasn't. Because as I start loving my wife, what I notice, amazingly, she would take up the crown of martyrdom. She would choose to die to her own desires and to love me in the same way. She would turn around and give to me of her love. We would mutually be loving one another, washing each other's feet. When I read in that ancient passage, it said, mutually submit one to another. In the reverence and awe of the way God is, mutually submit to each other. As we did this, we began to experience love, and I began to experience this overflowing from God's love, honoring my wife's free will and her honoring my free will, demanding nothing in return of one another. The blessing is this now started to overflow when we have others in our lives, our beautiful, precious, incredible daughter, Charis, where we got to overflow our love to her in every way possible. And as we began to experience this, we also began to overflow that love to others, our extended family. And I'm going to share a lot of pictures. I hope you don't mind. Some of these pictures are our personal life. This is me and Susan with Susan's mom and her family members. And it's great to be able to extend that love overflowing from one another, but not just to our extended family, to others around us. Remember this wonderful gentleman, Ramesh, that was with us till not too long ago? We got to experience that love for him. We get to overflow this love to one another right here in Toastmasters, in our meetings every time when we're connecting with one another. I appreciate knowing that as I'm connecting in this love, in this non-demanding love, and overflowing this love with one another, we can overflow it to one another wherever we are in life, whether we're connecting virtually or we're connecting physically in the same room. Now, living this agape love is not as easy as I thought. I thought all I have to do is learn the principles, now apply it. But I learned that we are all imperfect. I had to get on my knees pretty much on a daily basis, coming to God and saying, Lord, I want to love my wife as perfectly as you love me, but I cannot do it on my own power. Thankfully, he is flowing with mercy. He says, if you fall down 7 times, 70 times a day, hundreds of times a day, get back up and love her again. Try again, try again. Become like a saint, dying to yourself and loving her the same way as I have loved you. So if you were to apply this in your life, I would ask you to start with 5 minutes a day, seeing how you can experience this overflowing love from above into your life. In my specific tradition, I practice something called a noetic prayer, where I say, Kyrie Isu Christe eleison. Translated in English poorly is, Lord Jesus Christ, flow your mercy into me. As I experience this regularly, I start flowing with God's grace. I was able to receive God's mercy when I failed, when I fall down, and give that to my wife and to all those around me. When you are trying to love, when you are experiencing this overflowing love, if you don't do it perfectly, see your progress, not your failures. Don't magnify your failures. Ask for God's help. Ask for the power of the Holy Spirit that's available to every human being on the planet. It's available to everyone. And all we have to do is ask, and ask humbly, receiving mercy to overflow this love. When I'm being judged wrongly by my wife or by others or anyone else, I'm called to love and to pray for them. I'm to be filled with thanksgiving at all times, that gramercy we talked about. To pray without ceasing, constantly overflowing with thanksgiving and filled with joy from moment to moment, in order to become more like Jesus. He said in that ancient book, by this we will know love, because he laid down his life for us, we ought to lay down our lives for the brethren. In this experience, I learned that in this life, there's going to be a lot of struggles. I had to constantly work above them, get out of the boat when the storms of life seemed overwhelming, keep my eyes on the author and the finisher of my faith, and saying, I'm going to come to you walking on top of the water in the midst of the storms of life, transformed by the Holy Spirit, knowing this incredible reality. This is wonderful, that God is for us. God is for every one of you right now in this room. There is no one here that God is not for. God is for you. He loves you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. And all you have to do is receive his overflowing mercy. I'm not saying this in the sense of just a religious understanding, but in the sense of the fulfillment of our greatest purpose. That God, if God is for us, who can be against us? Even if my spouse is not necessarily aligned with me at times, it's not as important because I am overflowing with God's grace to give to her. If others around us in Toastmasters, maybe they misjudge us, maybe there's some kind of conflict at work or anywhere else, okay, God is for me. It doesn't matter. No matter what happens to me in this life, it will turn around for my eternal blessings, overflowing love forever beyond this life. Therefore, I can make it through anything and finally experience that call of marriage, which is, what did I say? In my experience was that to become saints, to encourage one another to sainthood, because ultimately this life, as beautiful as I have our marriage, it's only the beginning. We're going to spend eternity together. We're going to overflow with love for one another. As human beings, we're called to love one another, to be filled with grace and mercy. And for that, I'm constantly receiving this agape love, overflowing it to my wife, and my wife and I together overflowing it to others. And hopefully we get a glimpse of that in our time together in Toastmasters. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you for that speech. Wonderful speech. Great speech. Thank you very much. We're going to put 1 minute on the clock to give Anthony an instant feedback using the chat. So you can go to the chat, pick Anthony's name, and give him a feedback on this great speech. While we're doing that, I will explain to especially our guests, as a speaker, you want to be able to give a good message. You want to be able to deliver it very well, and you want to make connection with the audience. And that is what Anthony has just done: message, connection, and delivery. And that is what we are aspiring to. Whatever message you have, it could be corporate message, it could be personal message. You need to be able to pass that across, deliver it well, and connect with your audience. So let's give Anthony a feedback on his speech right now. Our Vice President of Education and an octogenarian. She will be telling us today about Toastmasters pathways, how to access the program, how to choose a path, how to record your project progress, and she will be answering questions on Toastmasters pathways. She will work from a PowerPoint slide today. So over to you, Carol. Take it over. You are on mute, Carol.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. I'll go through this pretty quickly. Many of you are very familiar with how to handle the Toastmaster website and record your speeches. Some of you are not. And it's my purpose here to try and kind of hit that sweet middle spot that helps some people and refreshes for others. You'll note my name says Carol Ritter, DTM. DTM is the highest award that Toastmasters can give. I got mine through the legacy system. When Toastmasters introduced pathways, I thought I was going to quit. I did not want to have anything to do with pathways. I have since revised my thinking on that. So the first things first, you have to access the website, which means that you log in, you put your member ID or your email, and if you don't have your password, if it's the first time you log in, then you can just go to forgot password, and that will start the process of getting you logged in. So you can get on the Toastmaster website. Once you are on that website, you will find you can go to the pathways up here at the top, and it says the Pathways Learning Experience. You have logged in and you go to pathways, and it brings you to these two sites. You can choose your path, or you can go to the navigator. Now, a path is a segment in which you elect a certain focus for many of your speeches. The navigator can help you choose a path by giving you a particular questionnaire. You can pick out the things from there that you think you would like to get yourself involved with and give you some heads up on where your path may direct you. There are 11 paths: dynamic leadership, effective coaching, engaging humor, innovative planning, leadership development, motivational strategies, persuasive influence, presentation mastery, strategic relationships, team collaboration, and visionary communication. You'll notice that there are 5 core competencies. And these are listed over here on this side. With regard to those competencies, engaging humor has only 2. Presentation mastery has only 2. But the others have 4. Most of them don't have 5. But at any rate, they all offer confidence in public speaking. Each level of a pathway builds upon the previous level. These are levels 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Level 1 develops or enhances your understanding of the fundamentals of the speech. Level 2 then it continues on that pathway and gives you some opportunities to provide mentorship or to experience mentorship. Level 3 then is increasing your knowledge. And in level 3, you will have an opportunity for a lot of electives in your speech making. Level 4 is building your skills. And then level 5 is demonstrating expertise. Every pathway has 5 levels to complete. Every pathway starts with 3 specific elements. Number 1 is icebreaker, which is 4 to 6 minutes, introducing you to your Toastmasters club. Then you evaluate the feedback that you get, because every time you give a speech, you are evaluated. And in your very first speech as an icebreaker, you will receive evaluation, and then you will repeat your icebreaker or another similar speech using that feedback. And then your third element is researching and presenting. Every level 2 is introduction to Toastmaster mentoring. And then beginning with levels 3 to 5, there are a number of elective choices. When you access your path online, you will be presented with a project and a training protocol. And that training protocol is very important. That is the whole purpose of Toastmasters as an educational program. Every project has the same progression of project, training, and completion of training. So after you have gone into the Toastmasters Pathways program, you can go to Basecamp. And in Basecamp, you can select a pathway for you. You have 2 ways to select your path. You can either go for digital or you can go for printed. Most people go for digital because the options in the printed materials are fewer. So you can obtain your digital resources online, or you can acquire your printed materials. Your first path is free. Everyone following that is $20, but you'll notice that the printed materials are $25. How do you want to select your learning path? You can view all the path options, or you can take the online assessment. This is what the self-assessment guide looks like. You choose 3 of these options here, and then the program will recommend a path for you. Now, frankly, when I did this, I did not think that the path they offered for me was what I wanted to do. I went outside that and chose my own. This is your program. You design it for yourself. You choose your path. These are some of the 6 paths: dynamic leadership, etc. We've looked at these a little bit beforehand. And this one shows you the 5 levels of dynamic leadership: mentoring fundamentals, learning your style, increasing knowledge, building skills, and demonstrating expertise. In each of these levels, you have some required speeches that you must give, and then some elective speeches that you may choose to give. You can choose any number of these. Example, in this increasing knowledge, look at all the speeches that you can give, all of the options that you have for electives. You can do all of them if you want. You can just do 2. In the 3rd level, you have to do 2 electives. You can do 2 electives. In the 4th level, you only have to do 1 elective. You can do them all, and some people do. And in the 5th level, you only have to do 1 of them. Some people do many. All of the electives offer you an opportunity to select a project, deliver that project, and have success in your speaking career. Now, after you choose your path, you will then see this button on your screen. It says, access my path through the base camp. You can go to the base camp here. And once you go to the base camp, this is what you will find. You will find your paths in learning. This one's mine. It says engaging humor, presentation, mastery. I have 3 paths that I'm working on right now. My first path is free. The other 2 did cost me $20. So there's $40 right there. Once you go to your path, you click the open the curriculum button. And once you do that, you then launch your program, and it leads you through a series of training, which can eventually lead you to receiving an award. There's my certificate of completion for one of my paths that I've chosen. As you go through these programs, as you go through this training, you will be, the Toastmasters keeps record of that training. And this is what, as a vice president of education, this is what I see when I look in the TI for each person's individual progress. These records never go away. They stay with Toastmasters International, and you're always given your record for your completion of your path. Now, what we've seen heretofore is many people are giving lots of speeches, but they are not recording their speeches in the Toastmasters program. And what happens there is they don't get credit for it. And if they don't get credit for it, they don't get a certificate. If they don't get a certificate, they don't get awards. So it's important to know how to record your speeches in Toastmasters. Now, I have another share screen. Let's see if I can do this. I want to share another screen. I want to stop sharing that one, and I want to start sharing a different one. Let's see. Start sharing a different PowerPoint.
Note your time, Carol.
Okay, is it up?
Yeah, it's red.
All right, thank you very much. Then we'll stop right there. I'll send this PowerPoint to all of the members, and people can use them as they see fit. And the questions. Are there questions?
Thank you, Carol. Anyone have a question for Carol? We dedicated 5 minutes for people to ask questions, especially on pathways, because we understand that some people are still finding time getting used to the system, learning their speeches and recording their progress. So if you have any question on pathways, the floor is open for Carol to answer your questions.
I don't have a question, but I want to say thank you, Carol. Thank you so much for helping me, because I was the one who was not recording anything, and she walked me through. And then I came to know that I have passed my level 1. So I said, okay, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your patience, Carol.
Well, you're welcome, Rafia. And as the Toastmaster mentioned earlier, no, it was our president, Utpai. every time a Toastmaster in our club receives an award, our club gets a little checkpoint. And our club can become a distinguished club if we have enough people getting checkpoints for the speeches that they give. Now, I have to tell you, I've been speaking in public since I was in high school. As an octogenarian, our Toastmaster was kind enough to mention that. As an octogenarian, I've talked a lot. In my working life, I developed lesson plans, not as a teacher, but in factory settings. I was training frontline process chemical workers. I developed programs for them. I issued those programs. I taught those programs. I ran question and answer sessions, et cetera, et cetera. I ran for school board at one time, and lo and behold, I won. I've been a public speaker for a long time. And when I was going through this Toastmasters pathways, I thought, this isn't for me. I'm way beyond this. I have found there are some things that I could learn from the Toastmasters programs. So I've stuck with it. Number one. Number two, most of the programs are devoted to businesses. At my age, I'm not working. I would like to share with you, and I would like for you all to share in future, finding some ways to give a talk about something that is not business related. I gave a talk last time about cryogenetics or cryogenesis, which is the preparing a body to be preserved until a cure is found for the disease that killed them, and then they can bring the body back. So that's an odd thing. But I've also given talks about Kamehameha, the king of Hawaii. There are lots of subjects that you all can choose for speeches, which are interesting to everybody. It does not have to be about business. Any other questions? And I haven't had one yet. Any question? Benet, do you have a question?
No, I don't have any questions at all about that. I thank you for that presentation. Gramercy to that. It was a fantastic presentation of the website.
Thank you.
I thought it made it seem easier.
It is a lot easier once you get into it. And the thing that you might notice is once you get into it, you realize I can just flip through these training sessions, come out at the end and not give a speech. So you can get all kinds of awards that way. But if you do that, you're cheating yourself, you're cheating your club members, and your club members will know what you're doing. They will say, hey, how come you got this award? You didn't do anything. So there's some little checks and balances there. All right.
Okay. Thank you very much, Carol. Let's give Carol a round of applause. Thank you for taking us through that.
I'm going to send the two presentations to you. The second one is more in depth on how you record your speeches. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So for this speech, I think we've given Carol questions. If you want to go ahead and type something to Carol just to give her feedback on the speech, please go ahead and do that. We'll move to our table topics. We'll only be able to entertain only 2 questions. Benet, so give it up for our table topic master today. Benet, over to you.
Thank you. Gramercy to all of our visitors and new guests that are on the call here with us. And our table topics today is to just give you practice for impromptu speaking. So I would like to call out so that way they know that they are going to be called out. I did like what I think it was Up By that did that last week or 2 weeks ago. If they're willing, Lisbeth and Rachel, if we have a chance for a third, I would like to get a keen perspective on a question. Is that all right? So the first question is to Lisbeth. And that is an article in Time, in the Time magazine from December 2013, stated it's a man's world and it always will be. Please explain from your experiences why you believe or don't believe that today's corporate workplace is still a man's world.
It's a tricky question. Thank you for that. It's a tricky question because as a woman, I want to believe that it's not true, but I've been in situations that tend me to believe that it is a man's world, especially in high positions or high places in the top of the organizations. So I'm in the middle of the decision. I want to believe that every day there are more chances for women to make the corporate world in an equal for both men and women. So I'm in that place now.
Well, thank you, Elizabeth. It looks like you just made it there. Our green card. Thank you. Akin, if you don't mind, would you be willing to answer a question? I mean, have an impromptu speak?
Sure, if you don't mind me not showing my video.
No.
I am traveling right now and most members know.
I see.
But I committed to Mr. President that even if for 15 minutes, I'll join. So I thought I'd escape this. But thank you for.
well, how about though? Let me try. How about Camille? Camille, would you be willing to do an impromptu speech?
I'll say yes because I had intentions of never saying no.
Oh, gratitude goes out the window as soon as you enter the workplace. A survey of 2,000 Americans conducted by the John Templeton Foundation found that people are less likely to feel or express gratitude at work than any other place, including schools and at home. Gratitude improves many aspects of life, from employee performance, self-esteem, reduces stress, and the list goes on. If you ever worked as part of a team or led a team, there are many people involved in the success of that endeavor that a team is tasked with. Please explain in what ways you would allow or would show your gratitude to those people that helped you be successful.
Oh, wow. Great question. It's almost you have known my life for the last 3 years and you're asking me it purposely. Being a member of Southwest Project Management, I remain a member because of my gramercy for this club. I was invited to Southwest Project Management back in 2017 after hearing Anthony Alai speak at one of the other clubs I belong to. After hearing him speak, I instantly wanted to be like him. I just wanted to get up and be so strong and powerful. And after 4 years, I'm still not there. But I've shown gratitude by staying and helping build the club and being involved in Toastmasters in District 56. And I get my satisfaction from seeing everyone grow in a better communicator, grow in a better leader, helping everyone be successful and not just belong to a club and just show up. And Toastmasters, Southwest Project Management is my major team in my life right now, Danny District, but that's where I have all my gratitude. When life happened, they were always there. Thank you.
Hi, Mr. Toastmaster. Do we have enough time for one more question?
Yeah, I think you've called Rachel, so let's quiz Rachel in.
All right. Thanks, Rachel. The fear of public speaking is the most common phobia ahead of death, spiders, and heights. The National Institute of Mental Health reports that public speaking anxiety, or glossophobia, affects about 73% of the population. How do you feel about public speaking? And can you share your methods you use to date that help you improve your public speaking? Or your
Okay.
desire to improve your public speaking?
Yes, very good question. The desire to speak in public has always been something that I've wanted to get better at since I can recall in college. I believe I took a speech course and remember having to get on stage and do my speech. And I think I quickly skipped that class because I did not have the courage to do it. And even now, as I sit here, I feel everything. My heart is beating 100 miles a minute, and I tend to smile a lot because I'm nervous. But I am thankful for this to be able to just talk and let it out. And I think I even forgot the question. I'm trying to get the green light here. So
You got it.
if anyone wants to help, that would be great because you guys are pros. And Carol Ritter, the DTM, whatever that means. I didn't quite get the acronym. But yeah, Director Toastmaster, I guess.
You got it.
So thank you.
Well, back to you, Mr. Toastmaster. Thank you for the time.
Evaluator, and our first evaluator is Ben, and he will evaluate Anthony's speech. Ben.
Thank you. Let me one question quickly. Where's the time? Is it Raffia, or you the one that's going to be timing me?
Raffia will be the time.
Yeah, I will be timing.
Okay, I just want to make sure it's on the screen so I don't go over. Okay, well, I can get started now. But thanks for the opportunity. It's nice to be back at the club. So I'll be evaluating Anthony's speech, and the title of the speech was Honeymoon 31 Years. And so basically it talked about marriage and his 31-year honeymoon with his beautiful wife. And I'm gonna use this method. I'm gonna call it the CARD method, y'all familiar with. So the CARD means content, organization, delivery. So in the content part of it, we're going to talk about the contents of the speech. What does he have in the speech and the effectiveness of it? The organization, more the structure, and do you have an introduction, body, and conclusion, which is pretty standard. And delivery, that's the whole part. That's the meat where you talk about was it eye contact, his tone, and everything else in the speech. So in the content, I like the fact that he used pictures because pictures are worth 1,000 words. So when you use pictures, you got a tendency to connect with the audience, starting with him as a kid, the god and Zeus. And it was nice the way he used the pictures and kind of told a story. And speech are more effective, in my opinion, when you tell a story. So he was telling the story and pulling us in. The organization, he started off with an intro to talk about, even just the title kind of had us engaged, I think, wondering what it was going to talk about, but it was important, especially as people that's been married a while. So he started off with the intro and the body, which was the meat of the speech. He talked about different topics. As for when he started the delivery, one of the things I really like is that he asked the questions, so, which means audience participation. It's great when you can get the audience to participate. So he asked the question, the purpose of marriage, and that made us think, what is the purpose of marriage? And so he got us to participate, and then he went in and talked about what it's not, like sexual fulfillment, financial stability, but he used the term that what it really is, encourage each other to sainthood. So basically, I drew out of that to be all you can be, help each other be all they can be. So he went through point by point, and he started telling us about the topics of what it is to be in a marriage. He quoted scripture, which is always good. And he also basically, I basically came from the conclusion that he said something like, give of yourself fully And he didn't say this, but I think, and it will be returned, but it's kind of implied. So I like the spiritual tip, the spiritual point of the speech, and it was a great job. What I would like to say is, I like the fact that he referred to several books that are important. So see you at the top, the Power of Positive Thinking, the Ziegler's book. I think we all can benefit from reading those books. The only thing I would say as far as improvement, I thought the ending was a bit quick because, I was enthralled, I was listening to the speech and it kind of came quick. I thought there was going to be more. It seems like there could have been more of a conclusion. But overall, I've seen Anthony speak a bunch of times. He's really good, and I really like the content. So thank you for the speech. And I'll return control to, I guess, the joint evaluator.
Thank you, Ben. What a great evaluation. That's a great gift to Anthony and also to the whole, our whole Toastmaster club. All right, so my second evaluator is Camille. She will evaluate Carol's speech. Power is yours, Camille.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. Abraham Lincoln once said, "It's not the years in your count, it's the life in your years." Fellow Toastmasters and guests, after listening to Carol's speech, I understood what it feels like to lead a Gramercy life and add life to the years. Toastmaster Carol has not only taught us how to register in pathways, select a path, and what to expect, but has also effectively used the principles designed to help us build the competencies we need to communicate and lead. Thank you for your presentation, Carol. As a distinguished Toastmaster, you have already reached a very acceptable, even admirable standard of delivery. I commend you for the variety you achieved in your voice, which fascinated us with its pleasant variety in pitch, as you used those lighter, higher songs and contrasted them with deeper, solemn tones. You used the different tones appropriately for the content at the time. Congratulations. I commend you for your variety in speaking speed. Your normal speed was steady and slow, which helped us clarify with articulation. You varied at times with quicker passages and once very effectively when you felt passionate about everyone's speaking career. I commend you for your speech construction. You had a clear introduction explaining what you wanted to do. The body of your speech dealt with the 3 points you announced, and the conclusion neatly tied them all together. I have 2 recommendations for you to work on. Firstly, I think you can use dramatic silences to give greater weight to particularly important statements. Secondly, I recommend that you work on your timing. Your speech conclusion was something that could be worked on. When you ended your speech, it was very abrupt. I personally know you did not originally intend to be evaluated, but you were scheduled a specific time. Maybe next time, end with summarizing the major points in your speech and a specific action that you would like the audience to take, even as you realize you're being timed out. It will help make your conclusion much stronger while helping the audience remember the major points in your speech. My final recommendation is for your animated facial expression. You smiled a lot, you frowned, you looked worried, you looked fearful. The expressions were always appropriate for what you were saying and reinforced your words powerfully. I will remember for a long time the way your face changed to worry and then to total fear just before the impact. This was an outstanding project on setting up in pathways. Madam General Evaluator.
And
Have a nice night.
evening.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.
To be thankful.
Great Thanksgiving.
Thanks.
Bye.
Night.
Have a good night.
Yeah.
Good night.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Upaya